Welcome to our program at Palestine International Broadcast. I'm Osama Nazal. It's good to have you with us. Greta Berlin is a well-known activist with the International Solidarity Movement who came to Palestine several times with her late friend, Mary Hughes Thompson, and came in order to provide support for the Palestinian people against the Israeli occupation and against the Israeli settlers' assaults and attacks against the Palestinians. Welcome to our program, Greta.
Thank you.
And first, accept our condolences for the passing of your friend and the friend of all the freedom and justice-loving people, Ms. Mary Hughes Thompson.
Thank you. She was the most amazing woman.
Yeah, and you are going to tell me how your relationship started with Thompson. The cause of that relationship was the cause of Palestine, as you wrote. May you tell me how all that started, please?
I was planning on going to Jenin in July of 2003. The International Solidarity Movement asked me to contact Mary Hughes Thompson because we both lived in Los Angeles. I found out she lived only a mile away from me. Mm-hmm. And I contacted her just after she had been beaten up by the illegal squatters in Itamar. That was in 2002, and we became friends for 19 years.
Yes, and Greta, you described Thompson as a woman of determination, courage, and joy. How that was proved during your relationship as a friends in the fight for freedom and justice for the Palestinians?
We were determined to get into the occupied West Bank in 2005 and 2007. We knew that the security knew who we were. So we made up a story that said we were cousins and we were coming in because I was taking my cousin for a last trip to the Holy Land. And she acted as though she was ill. And she was so good at convincing the security that they let us in. I actually thought she was ill. She was that good of an actor. We were determined. The amount of courage that it took for us to get on those boats and sail to Gaza in 2008 was another way she showed her courage, all of us. As far as the joy, we had a wonderful time fooling Israeli security every time we went.
Yes, and if we talk about the beginnings of this relationship and her involvement in the International Solidarity Movement, and you the same, how that started, why she dedicated her life, or most of her life, to the people of Palestine and the cause of Palestine?
That's an interesting question, because for me, I was married to a Nakba survivor. So I came to Palestine through my husband. Mary was a documentary researcher, and she was working for a man called David Wolper. And he had asked her to do some research on the Six-Day War. That must have been in the mid-'80s. And the more research she did, the more she realized she'd been lied to. And you know, there's nothing worse than somebody who's been lied to, because we become the passionate advocates because we've been lied to. That was true for both of us.
Yes, and you coming to Palestine was not an easy mission, and we all remember when Mary Thompson was attacked by the Israeli settlers while she was helping the Palestinian olive pickers in the village of Yanun near Nablus in occupied West Bank. She was harshly beaten on the back and the arm and the chest, and she talked about that a lot. What did she tell you as a friend, and how that assault by the Israeli settlers affected her life and her activism?
That was actually the first time I met her, in the fall of 2002. She had just returned from being beaten. And I was going to go to Jenin that summer. And the advice that she gave to me was, no matter how determined you are, you have to be willing to go and give your life up if that's necessary. And she was willing to do that. And so was I. And the more this happened to us, the more determined we became. I think part of it helped that we were older, because we had less to lose. Our children were grown. We could go and do what we wanted to do, and what we wanted to do was work for Palestine.
Yes, and Greta, Thompson was in 2010 expected to be among the passengers on board of the ill-fated flotilla when the Israeli occupation forces attacked the ship and killed 10 on board. Tell me, what was her impression and how was she feeling when she got the news item of the Israeli crime against the Solidarity people on the ship?
We were sitting in the media office in Cyprus. Hetty Epstein, Mary Hughes Thompson, Audrey Bomsey, and me. And when we heard the news, we were actually watching it on a live feed from our a person who was on board the Mavi Marmara. She was outraged. That flotilla was a flotilla of civilians in international water. We were not in Israeli water, and we had no weapons. And so the more we heard about what had happened to the 10 people murdered, including Americans, the more outraged we became. And so we spent the next 2 weeks in the media office talking to the media. I think that changed us. It definitely changed Mary. And it definitely made us realize that the Israelis were willing to murder us, because they did.
Yes, Greta Berlin, if we want to talk about Thompson, we might talk for hours and for days. But, you know, we are under time pressure and we are to stop here. May her soul rest in peace. May her soul rest in Palestine. Thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you very much for having me.
Thank you. That's all for our program. Thank you very much for watching, and goodbye.